All right, welcome back, everybody. We have taken a hiatus for some things that were going on in life. Kyle and I both work normal jobs, but this is going to be episode 4, and from now on, we should have something for you every week going through the season. So this is the special opening week edition. I'm Ryan, and this
And
is
I'm
Kyle.
Kyle.
All right. So both of us have been very excited to get back at this. We've been talking really antsy, lots of stuff going on in regular life that's kind of prevented us from doing some of the stuff we wanted to do during spring. But fortunately for us, the weather has broke and baseball season is here. So we are super excited. Both of us consider this a holiday. So uh, why don't we go ahead and Kyle, I know in the past you and I have spent opening day together a lot of times. So why don't you go ahead and tell us how you spent your opening day?
Started off, woke up, got some breakfast, went downtown, met at Fountain Square. Me and my girlfriend, a close friend of mine, went down there, went to Fountain Square, spent time down there, watched the band they had, um, talked with all the vendors down there, waited around and grabbed some beers. We watched the parade. Always a good time. Had the Nasty Boys and everything, which is really cool to see. Um, had a lot of cool stuff. Had Jim Scott, who's retiring from 700 WLW there. It was good to see him in the parade saying a last goodbye to everybody. So from the parade, we walked down to the block party down by the stadium. We enjoyed that a little bit, got a beer down there, saw a band that was playing there, and then walked back up. We didn't have tickets this year. Normally we do. We decided to go up and watch the game at Washington Park, which is a very nice park, an OTR. If you haven't been, check it out. They had a really cool band playing, and then after that, they had the game on a projection screen. So we grabbed some.
That's what I was going to ask. I didn't know what the setup was like for that. I've never been down there for it.
It was cool. We started to watch it there. We'll probably do that again next year if we don't have tickets. But the issue was we started watching it and immediately started downpouring because of the rain delay. So we ran down and watched at a bar called the Drinkery and had a bunch of friends meet there and all watched there and had some drinks and shared some peanuts and everything and watched the Reds win. So it was awesome. It was a really good time.
Good deal. Well, unfortunately for me, mine was not nearly as eventful. So for me, I live in Virginia. It's kind of tough for me to trek back to Cincinnati to be able to go to opening day. I try to get off work for it, but unfortunately, I work retail, and in springtime, that's a big no-no. So I got a couple days off for it. I was off for opening day. So what I was able to do was go to the grocery, make a enormous amount of food. One of my friends came down from he lives a couple hours from me. We watched the Reds game together. Ate enough food to where I felt like I was going to throw up, and enjoyed a thoroughly good day in fantasy baseball as well. So a little consolation prize for me. Kyle and we might take some jabs at each other this week because he's actually playing me this week and he's getting his butt whooped right now. So.
Yeah, we won't talk about me getting dick slapped.
So opening day in all of Cincinnati, obviously, if you're a Reds fan, you know how big a deal it is. Even from 12 hours away, I'm still celebrating on my own here. So let's talk about how awesome these last 3 days have been.
So great.
Pirates sweep to start the season. Holy cow! Are you kidding me? If you would have told me that a month ago, I would have, jumped for joy.
I expected maybe a win, to be honest. I thought we would get a win out of Cueto. I thought Leak being in the pressure situation, being his first game of the year, with the Pirates having an upgraded offense, I thought we might be in a little bit of trouble. I love Mike Leak, but anybody during their first game of the year, I'm nervous about it.
Andrew McCutcheon cut off his hair and all of his strength went away. That's what it was. So.
Don't say that because Kevin Gregg happens.
Yeah, so
DeSclafani looked awesome. So, I mean, it was to come away with 3 wins. Come away with 2 wins, I would have been happy. But 3, I text my dad and I was like, I'm blown away. That was the absolute best possible outcome.
Yeah, so definitely a great feeling to start the season off. So we'll break down our, what we saw in the games a little bit. Kyle's going to do more game 2 because I missed some of that. I watched game 1 and 3. So in game 1, obviously, opening day, big time nerves, lots of stuff going on, new faces with Marlon Byrd. So I'll just say that the Reds came out and we're all business. I've never seen the Reds start like this where it seems like, maybe it's the optimism at the beginning of the season, but it feels like they are all about the business this year. And maybe it's got a little bit to do with the fact that expectations were lower this year. People were really down on them coming into the season. And I just feel like in these first 3 games, they have looked excellent. I mean, Votto and Hamilton, I love them in the 1 and 2 spot. Hamilton creating havoc on the bases, obviously getting Votto better pitches to hit, and Votto is taking advantage. So I think that's huge. Pitching looks pretty good. We got a little improvement here and there, but overall for what we've started with, pretty good showing. Frazier is absolutely on fire right now. I can't wait to see what happens when some of the other guys start to pick up the pace as well. So, that's for game 1. We know what happened if you watch the game. So coming in, great pitching performance from Cueto. Unfortunately, he couldn't get the win. We had, some big time home runs. Gave up the home run to Andrew McCutchen, which we're going to kind of touch back on because both Kyle and I both had a big problem with a move there. That's probably the only negative thing that I have to say about any of these games. But ultimately, to come back right after that happened, get the runs on the board, see Votto come through in a really, really good at bat. Really looked like himself. Battled back to 3 and 2, gets on base, and then Frazier cleans it up. I mean, that's just awesome. So that's what I got for game 1. Kyle, what do you got for game 2?
For game 2, Mike Leake, he had a battle. He had a 2.5-hour rain delay. And to any fans that stayed down there and stayed for that game for the 2.5 hours and stayed till 2 in the morning for that game, props to you because that's awesome. But, it's when you look at how long that is, for how long he's got to keep his arm warm to come out there and at least be able to battle and, keep them to only 3 earned runs. He didn't get out of the 6th inning, but he did exactly what he needed to do. He came out, he battled, and, we would score and then they would strike back, but he would never let them get to a point where they were ahead of us and we couldn't claw back from it. He kept them exactly where they needed to be. He battled like he always does. And, he was impressive. He had the strikeouts. He was still looking strong. He was still being deceptive. He's going to be a strong part of our team, hopefully, for a long time. With the bullpen, Sangrani came out, Badenhop came out, Jumbo Diaz came out, looked awesome. Even Hoover came out, pitched 2 innings. Hoover looked great. If Hoover can
I did catch that at the end of the game. He did look really good.
Yeah, if Hoover can come out and pitch like that all year, he can come out and pitch and just, not even just try to strike everybody out like he did last season. Because like a lot of people don't know, he had a bad year last year, but he had a career high in strikeouts. He was averaging 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. So if he can get away from that and just worry about pitching and not just throwing, you could see a big improvement and a big step up again from Hoover. But the game it looked great. The guys battled back. They kept it where it needed to be. And then, Billy Hamilton just being disruptive all night. He technically stole 4 bases last night, considering the accidental, interaction from Votto with the catcher. But, him just being disruptive and just keeping the pitching staff on their toes all night was awesome. And then to see, that last inning came up, and Kozar got the walk, or Kozar got hit by a pitch, so he went to first. Billy Hamilton drew a serious walk that late in the game. And it was awesome to see him advance someone to second. He got someone to scoring position. And it's not something you're usually used to seeing from from Billy Hamilton because he's not a big guy that walks. He doesn't take a lot of pitches. So to see him do that to where it could win us the game was really awesome. Votto came in with the big clutch hit, and Kozar really, really, really hauled ass all the way to home plate. It was awesome to see him avoid that tag and get in there. They couldn't have looked more excited. And then, after the game, you hear Votto talk about it, and he said, that game lasted too long to be out of their minds before the next day. They had to get that win. So it was really cool.
And he also said it was one of the toughest wins of the year, and couldn't even get it out without starting to laugh.
Yeah, it was good. It's good to see him have a sense of humor and not just be, a robot like some people think he is. But yeah, they all seem just so pumped up. Every time anyone hit a home run or came into the dugout, you saw the guys in the dugout just exploding. It's good to see this early in the season. It's good to see him get some momentum, especially on a season with the Cardinals, and hopefully it holds up. But yeah, and the good news is about what Hamilton's been doing is it's transitioning game to game. So, he had a really good game in game 2, and then in game 3 he continued. So at game 3, I'll go ahead and let Ryan have that one. He just freshly watched that since he was at work. So, Ryan, if you want to continue on game 3 and talk about from there.
Yeah, for sure. So I just finished that. One thing I'll say about it is that, Sclafani, he looked pretty good. I like seeing him get out of the bases loaded situation when he was probably getting closer to the end of his game. Definitely, the home run from Votto was probably questionable about whether that would go out on a regular day or not. I'm not gonna complain about it, but I think the wind definitely took that. It hung up there quite a bit. You could even see from the look on his face that he didn't think that he really had it. But look, the biggest thing that I have for this, I'm not going to break the game down. I'm sure you guys watched it. The biggest thing is going to be is that they're battling and continuing to have a big approach at the plate. I think that's probably the biggest thing so far that's looked good is you actually have guys seeing some pitches. That their bats look a lot better so far to start the season off. At the end of that game, to continue to battle, get guys on base, and they just look so calm. At the end of game 3, Frazier gets on base, he works his way around, and it was like clockwork. It was like they did exactly what they were supposed to do, and then Marlon Byrd, if that ball doesn't drop, it's probably a really close play at home. But the ball dropped. He put the ball in play like he's supposed to do. He got it to the grass.
That they're not not that I think it's that important of a stat in general, but I'm a little upset they're not awarding Marlon Byrd with a RBI there. I think if you put the ball in play and you make that good a contact on it, and the run scores and you win because you put the ball in play, I think it's a little just crappy just to not give a guy an RBI on that. Him putting the ball in play where he put it, as hard as he put it into play, caused them to win that game and caused that. For sure. I would be, if I was him, a little upset that he's not getting awarded that.
Yeah, I can agree with you. I honestly, from a Major League Baseball standpoint, they probably don't really care that much, to be honest. And the guy's got a job. He's a veteran. He did what he was supposed to do. He knows that. We know that. So
I'm sure it's the kind of thing that by tomorrow he won't even think about again.
Yeah, for sure.
For the night, I think I'd be a little bit rubbed the wrong way. Regardless, they have to win, so not that they can have that sour of a taste in their mouth.
Absolutely. The other cool thing is, with the Matt Latos issue that happened in the offseason, the way that Marlon Byrd made it a point to address it right away, stick up for the Reds, and then him come out early in the season, establish himself as a leader, and then get that moment with the new Reds team. It was just really fun to watch. I really enjoyed getting to see that. It's still early. We don't know if the rest of the season is going to go this way or not, but I can tell you right now, for what the expectation was for this year, the start of the season has been enough to make me a believer. Call it early season optimism if you want, but I'm feeling really good right now. And if they continue to play the way they are and stay healthy, there's no reason they couldn't be a contender for the playoffs. So.
Yeah, and for the starting staff, to kind of transition on this, all three starters had to deal with rain delays, like we were saying. That's hard to do. All of them kept their composure. DeSclafani, when you were talking about the bases loaded situations, it's good to see that even when he has a situation like that, he doesn't ever seem rattled and shaken up. For a young guy, and this being his basically his rookie year, it's good to see him seem poised and never seem too shaken up and never seem too worried about what's going on. He seems to keep his feet under him, and he seems to understand that even when he's shaken up, he's knowing that his guys have his back, and he's knowing that he can trust his stuff. And hopefully that's what we see tomorrow with Marquise. He's going up against the Cardinals, and that's a big force to go up against, especially with an upgraded offense. They got a whole different team since he played there. Hayward's a big new part of that team. Watching any of these Cardinals and Cubs games, you can see watching Hayward that the Cardinals have changed his batting stance up. His feet are a little closer to the plate. His hands are up closer to his body. I think he's going to put up some good numbers for the Cardinals this year. So it's a big offense for him to take, but he's a veteran. People can talk as much as they want to say about him, but he's reinvented himself, at least to the point so far where all through spring the numbers proved it. He was throwing downward sinking stuff. He was getting ground balls. He wasn't too worried about trying to strike everybody out. He was trusting his defense and trusting his stuff, and it was working out. If he can translate that tomorrow, it would mean worlds to the fan base to see that they can trust that guy.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think the way the starting staff has been handled has been fantastic. I think the starters have looked great. I think the relief has been a little bit questionable, but not so much from the bullpen standpoint, but from the management of the bullpen. Right out of the bat with the Kevin Gregg situation in the first game, that really concerns me because the guy got completely rocked and got 2 outs from 2 really nice plays from Marlon Byrd and Billy Hamilton. He gets rocked, and then you leave him in to face possibly the greatest Reds killer of all time, and Andrew McCutchen. Like, come on, like, what are you thinking?
It wasn't even that.
And I mean,
it wasn't even that he was just getting rocked. He was throwing fastballs and topping out at 88, 89. Like, if you see he's not working breaking ball stuff and you see that he's struggling and they're just pounding these fastballs he's throwing in. It wasn't like he gave up 4 runs before McCutchen came in, but they were hitting him hard. I mean, he almost gave up a home run down the right field line too. And it's disturbing to me to see a coach, to see a manager who was a pitching coach and knows pitching so well that how can we as fans see that dude is getting rocked and shouldn't face a guy like McCutchen? And Bryan Price either doesn't see that or chooses not to see that. I don't know if it's that he's too attached to the pitchers and he, being a pitcher in the past, knows what it's like to get pulled out too early and is too afraid to pull a guy. I don't know. But then Manny Parra comes in, and Manny Parra comes in and throws 1 pitch. The ball isn't hit hard. It's a ground ball that's hit. And it's not ridiculous. And somehow, because he gave up that 1 pitch, he's yanked immediately. But he let Kevin Gregg just get served up the whole time he's out there.
Well, I think that Bryan Price struggles to decide what kind of coach he wants to be. He throws out the lefty specialist and pulls him back in. He leaves the right-hander out too long. It's like, you got to make a decision and stick with it. I mean, I don't want to open too big a can of worms here, but the thing is you're in the 8th inning, okay? You have the meat of the order there. That is the strength of the Pirates lineup that you're facing. What I don't understand, and I don't want to start the whole argument of closer role, things like that. I don't want to get too far into it, but if I'm a manager, my thing is I want my best relief pitcher going against the strength of their order. So, whether you want to argue that that's Chapman in that situation or you want to argue what it takes to close a game out, that's fine. But to have, if you are sending Kevin Gregg out there to go through that part of the lineup, that tells me that you think he's the strength of the bullpen, and that worries me. So
yeah,
with you facing that, why aren't you throwing your strongest guy out there? And if that is Chapman, why aren't you sending him out there to face that inning and maybe leaving, the next inning to a guy who can handle it a little bit more in a situation where you're not facing those same batters, you're not facing that strength of the lineup. Or with McCutchen ending the inning with 2 outs and you're facing McCutchen, bring Chapman in to face McCutchen and then bring him over to the ninth. That's never been done before. The guy was going to be a starter and you can't take him for 4 outs. I just think that's ridiculous.
Regardless of whether they want to do the roles or the 8th inning setup role or whatever, if they're going to do roles and they're going to do roles based on importance and based on quality of pitching and the dominance of a guy's stuff, what has Kevin Gregg done that makes Bryan Price and the rest of the coaching staff think that's our 8th inning guy, he's our next best guy to transition into Chapman? If you're going by roles, then you should go by your 8th inning guy should be your next most dominant reliever. So what has Kevin Gregg
That's what I'm saying. Like, what if Bryan Price needs to make a decision? Is he going to be a Dusty Baker or is he going to be more progressive? Like, right. You need to figure it out and stick with one, not dance in between these different roles.
Oh, he's absolutely dancing in between. And the problem is that he keeps leaning more towards one, and he should be leaning more towards the other.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's like whether you want to say you're a traditionalist or not, I mean, that's fine. If you want to stick with a traditional closer role, that's fine. But you need to establish who your setup guy is then. And in my book, it would be, Jumbo Diaz, because he's shown that he's the more dominant one. Or maybe even J.J. Hoover, because if you trust him and it seems like you like what he's doing, then establish him as the setup guy. But Kevin Gregg coming out of there, I mean, I just don't understand that. Like, to face the heart of their order. I mean, you almost gave that game up, and you took a win away from Cueto, which is ridiculous because he deserved that win. So, I mean, it's insane to me.
Yeah, well, we'll save. Hopefully, things change, and this is a conversation we won't have to have too much on here about Bryan Price. I think he's a great guy, so I'd love nothing more to see him turn it around and start being the kind of manager we hope he is. And I hope the team does well enough to where he doesn't have to make too many mistakes and we don't have to be too unhappy on his part. I don't want it to turn into everything is Dusty Baker's fault into being everything is Bryan Price's fault, how it used to be. So hopefully we don't have to have that happen. Hopefully this 3-game series against the Cards, we see some really good managing. We see some really good ball playing. And our next podcast, this isn't something we have to revisit.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it is early in the season. We are getting started. Don't want to get – because obviously the way this has started out has been absolutely wonderful. So don't take that negative as being down on the team already. We are definitely both up and very, very excited. I almost brought a broom to the podcast. That's how happy I was about today. So, I mean, needless to say, we have some tough series coming up. We've got a 3-game home series against the Cards this weekend. And then we go to Chicago, who luckily has looked like the same old stuff so far.
Saturday, are they still pitching Cueto? I heard they were going to skip Iglesias and pitch Cueto.
I am not sure about that.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Last time, 100%.
That's what they were doing.
We'll keep an eye out for that. I got to know that for fantasy baseball anyway. So
yeah, it is. I'm looking right now. It's Cueto versus Waka on Saturday. On Friday, we got Marquise versus Lackey. So I mean, there's going to be some good pitching matchups, and then on Sunday we got Mike Leake going again.
Good
So you
deal.
have some really good matchups. I think Marquise versus Lackey, he's not facing a guy that's going to be their most dominant guy. I think it's going to be a good matchup for him. And then Cueto, I think, should dominate Waka. So as long as our offense can hold true to what they're doing right now, I think you see a pretty good series between these two teams.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely a hot team coming to them. So look out, Cardinals. Hopefully, with the way the Reds have changed and a lot of other things, maybe the way that they play against the Cardinals will be something else that we add to that list of things that are changing this year. So, like I said, also next year, at the beginning of next week, we have a 3-game road series against the Cubs. So they aren't looking so hot, but they do have young talent that could be, turn it on at any minute. So definitely interested in seeing what happens in that series as well. We will be back next week. Might not be on Thursday because I believe I'm going to drive up to D.C. to go to a Nationals Phillies game. Woo-hoo, cross another stadium off my list. Other than that, that's pretty much all we got. Awesome opening series. Happy opening week to everybody. I'm going to throw.
I think I have a big chance of going to the game tomorrow. So if I go to the game tomorrow, in our next podcast, I'll come back and have some opinions on the new additions to the Great American Ballpark and be able to share some opinions on that.
Take some pictures if you go, and we can post them on. We'll post them along with the video next week.
Repost them on Twitter and a couple different things. That'd be great.
Cool. Yeah, leading into that, so our Twitter is at Big Red Banter PC. Our email address is bigredbanterpodcast@gmail.com. Send us any questions or topics you would like us to talk on, or if you have any criticisms or comments on things that we're talking about, feel free to get at us on those. And then we also have a WordPress, bigredbanterpodcast.wordpress.com. Also trying to work on a .com here coming up soon, so hopefully we can get that stuff worked out. But other than that, we will see you guys next week. Go Red Legs.
Go Reds.